Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 14th of November 2021, and we went to our local stand in the park this morning, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a thing that you can do. Many of these happen up and down the country in local parks, and it's where like-minded people can get together for a couple of hours on a Sunday morning. So there's more details on my website about it if you want to go and check it out and find where your local venue is. fairplaynow.net/stand. But at this meeting, there was a guy there, and he came out with a couple of really interesting things. First of all, he was saying that, because I think he either runs or works for a business, kind of, like a skip business, dropping off skips and collecting them and what have you. And he has been doing that throughout most of the last 18 months. And he had a really interesting story. He said, even right at the height of this nonsense, April of last year, they were delivering skips to these big sort of mansions and country estates way out in the sticks, and he would get chatting to sort of the owners, who were sort of probably directing them where to put the skips. And they were sort of saying, well, we're sort of having a concert here. This is what why we need the skips. We're having a concert. There's going to be 1,000 people. And this guy was like, do you know there's a situation going on at the moment, and we're in lockdown, and this guy just sort of shook his head and said, oh, that's utter tosh. So it just goes to show you that if you are sort of rich enough, wealthy enough, this whole thing doesn't really apply to you. But he wasn't there really to kind of have a go at rich people. The guy's point was that if you're not dependent on the government, this whole thing of the nonsense, the big V mandates, the mandates for this and everything else won't really affect you, because you're free to, basically do your own thing. And it probably helps to be rich to do that, but there are ways and means you can get around it without being rich. Just as a very sort of small example, is my wife Lorraine's got this friend who used to work in a care home until a couple of months ago, and she actually left when they announced the whole care home staff thing, that the unV'd can't work there. The thing that just occurred a couple of days ago, that finally came in a couple of days ago. But she kind of preempted it and just jumped ship, and she's now got a variety of jobs, I think. One of them is cleaning, and she, believe it or not, she earns not just a little bit more money, but way more money doing cleaning work than she did in the care home. So, and the thing is, because cleaning work isn't really something controlled by the government very much, unlike sort of care homes where they have to meet all kinds of government restrictions and policies, she's able to do the job without any kind of silly mandates, and she is thriving now. So I guess my point, and the point this guy was trying to make, is if you can divorce yourself from the government as much as you can. I know it's difficult certainly for a lot of people, but that is one way you can kind of get around their nonsense. And it's not going to just take that. And I'm not kind of that naive. We are going to have to keep chipping away in all sorts of areas until we sort of bring the government and the powers that shouldn't be well and truly to heel. And it might look like an impossible task, an absolutely impossible task at the moment, but I think, and this is what this same guy was saying, just every little thing. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if it's going to your local stand in the park every Sunday morning, going on these sort of events that go on in London and other towns around the country every month. Doesn't matter if you make videos like this, like I do, or share videos, sort of try and give friends and family who are with the mainstream media kind of truth bombs sort of every sort of once in a while. It all chips away at the narrative. And if you sort of think it's impossible, I'll just leave you with a little story. A few years ago, I think it was, well, quite a few years ago actually, 2008, I visited Colditz Castle, which I believe is, well, it didn't seem to be that far from Dresden. So it's obviously in Germany, and it's where it's quite famous to us kind of British, because it's where the Germans put sort of prisoners of war that they'd captured during the fighting in the Second World War, and the persistent escapers from other POW camps they'd put in Colditz Castle, because it was thought to be by the Germans impossible to escape from. And I went there, and it's quite an imposing place, and one of the most incredible escape stories, because people did escape from there, even though it's impossible to escape from, supposedly. So it just shows you how the impossible can be made to be possible. But one of the most remarkable stories was the French prisoners of war in there. The way they planned to escape is they had to dig through about 20 foot of solid rock. And of course, they didn't have drills and pickaxes and proper equipment. They had to sort of just use probably the sharpened ends of forks and spoons and things like that to kind of chip away at the rock. And they found that if they held a candle against the rock, it kind of softened it a bit, and then they could sort of chip away at it a little bit, and then until they got to the next hardened bit again, and then they'd do the candle again, chip away with the end of a spoon or whatever. And can you imagine how long that must have taken, and the persistent effort that must have taken to get through about 20 foot of solid rock just using a candle and the end of spoons? And it must have, especially when they're just starting out, there must have been some of them who thought, oh, this is impossible, this is just going to take from it forever. But every night they persisted, and they chipped away a little bit, chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped, until they began to get a little bit further into the rock, and until finally they broke out the other side and were able to put their escape plans into place from there. So just a remarkable story of persistence and doggedness. And if you sort of think the situation we are in is impossible, just remember that story and keep chipping away. I'll leave it there. Back tomorrow. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.